this, gents. A full slate of football honoring the best in the country is set to take place in just a few moments. We start out the slate of games from the Smoky Mountains in eastern Tennessee with the Rising Stars. A handful of juniors, but the majority sophomores participating in the Rising Stars game for high school 8-man football. Welcome to everyone watching around the world. I'm Spencer Thompson alongside Blake Biggs. Proud to be with you in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. You know, Blake, there's a lot of angles we could certainly go on, a lot of different storylines that we'll get into throughout the day. But one that stands out most in my mind is that this is the first time in recent memory with any of the All-American games that we've done that an entire coaching staff for one team is led from a university and not a high school of any of the teams participating. And Oakland City University's head coaching staff, we got to talk with Coach Miller beforehand, and they're just as excited and mentioned it's also a good recruiting tool for them, which is a great benefit to these players.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a big thing and a big advantage of these games this afternoon is a recruitment. It's used as recruitment to expose these kids to coaches. Like, again, you said, he was from Oakland City University. Actually, somebody I played against in high school, Gage Blankenship from Bowling Green Christian, that's one of his players. We talked about it, and, yeah, it was kind of cool to rekindle that little, connection. But, this is a great event, great venue to get these small school players some more exposure, so to say.
Absolutely, and we talked to Coach Matt Mims for the other side, coming from Abbeville Christian, who actually was telling us he was with Evangel Montgomery when they were in the CFA State Championship against Russell Christian, which I believe you were on call for that matchup. It may have been somebody else during that one. I know you've done a couple of CFA games, and certainly seems like a blur to me as well.
It wasn't Evangel. It was 22. It was Jacksonville Christian, and then 23 was Tuscaloosa Russellville. So
just a year before you had joined on with us, Coach Mims joined by a slew of coaches from all across the high school 8-man football world, and we'll get to those stories as we get later on. But the other big highlight as we get set for kickoff here is the starting quarterbacks between the two. And for the Navy team, for the Rising Stars, they only have one quarterback, and it's a good quarterback to have with the star sophomore from Georgia Forest in Randall Fanning.
Yeah, that's a good pickup right there for you said the Navy?
Yes.
The Navy team? Yeah, but with for the white team, they have a lot more depth at quarterback, which, that's something to watch out for. They could, it may not be a passing attack for them. They could, switch it out, put a guy, hey, let's run a read option or a triple option, or then put in another guy. Hey, let's air it out down the middle or out deep, or, some short screens.
Yeah, and there was a question of who was going to be their starting quarterback for the team. We'll figure out in just a few moments, as this will be ruled a touchback by Rule in high school football, and we are underway. The Rising Stars in gold are wearing the white uniforms, designated the home team, and Navy wearing, of course, Navy colors. It's a little bit abnormal, as you mostly see a light color scheme for away teams and darker for the home team, so maybe a little bit confusing to start out, but the scoreboard will help you with that, as Navy will start out on defense, and we will see the first offensive moves from the gold, and they will start with their it looks like their quarterback in the backfield. Looks like it's Cade Atkinson from South Haven Christian over from Springfield, Tennessee. South Haven players arrived on Friday. As this is deep toss, he takes a huge shot as this goes incomplete out of the back of the end zone. I beg your pardon. It's actually Brooks Bryan, the junior from Bethlehem Christian out of Georgia, who is in the backfield for the Gold Rising Stars, and he took a huge shot on the first play.
Yeah, and I want to point out something right here. That's a interesting formation and personnel decision right there. They stacked both sides of the field and have one running back in the block. Very interesting. Will they air it out here?
And they run with a sweep to the right, and give another 2 or yards after contact for Zeke Clanton. We were talking about him on the field with Coach and how impressed he was with him, the junior out of Bethlehem Christian. 58 carries on the year. Pretty much anytime he touches the ball, he's carrying it for 13 yards and gets a nice gain for a first down there, right on schedule.
Yeah, that's a great outside run right there. Good play call. Good blocking right there by the O-line. Great field vision. Good physical awareness and toughness right there. Took a hit to the shoulder, stayed up, and got a few more yards after contact.
Gives him a new set of downs at the 34-yard line. And motion again. That's Clanton again, trying to push through that defensive line. And gets a gain of a couple of yards here. You know, Brendan Daniel is with us on camera down below, and any of the times I've done games with him, he's always talked about the battle in the trenches. And when you're looking at the stats for these All-American games, certainly there are always people who have more heavy stats than others on that sort of circumstance. We have an official timeout here for player readjusting his knee brace. You have offensive and defensive linemen that don't always have stat lines on it, and that's because what really shows you don't necessarily have any stat lines for prevented hurries, prevented rushes on the quarterback. So these players on the line itself, as Brendan always says, it'll be a battle in the trenches, and you see there the defense only allowed about 3-4 yards.
Right, and going off what you said with like the stats, that's really just a max prep problem and a coach input issue.
Gain of a couple yards for a second down, trying to find the gap in the middle. And you could see that for the Navy, it is one of their star defenders, Owen Weisner from the Kansas City East Lions, fired up after making that tackle. On the season, he had 16 total, 10 on his own. Not a tackle for a loss, but a good tackle to force a second down.
Yeah, very good defense right there, just to fill in the hole. A quick hole opened up for the running back right there. Defense, you know, there are 3-4 men right there to fill it in. Got to him. This will be an interesting third down.
Only managed to go 4 yards on this new set of downs. Slung across the middle. It's almost intercepted. Looked like it would have been a pick for the Navy had it been recepted there by Dawson Mims, the sophomore from Windsor Academy. 1 interception on the year. Missed opportunity for his second.
And what a throw right there by the quarterback. Yeah, it was almost picked off, but that is due in part to the cornerback, Mr. Dawson right there. Very good hustle play right there. Thought he had the reception. The receiver had the reception for a little bit. Hustled to it, didn't give up. Great, all-around play right there by the corner and the defense. Navy defense is impressing me so far.
That was good play execution, too, across the middle. If he had just got the ball and pulled it in. Maybe a little bit over the defender there, but it's also a credit to Dawson Sims for reading that play perfectly, as this punt is not what the Gold needed. And in the backfield, this is going to be great field advantage for the Navy. A muffed snap by the Gold's Wyatt Farrer from Abbeville Christian, but a great stop by this defense, and looks like the Navy may be able to score early.
You know the old saying, right? Defense wins championship games. Well, defense will win a Rising Star game. Great defensive showing by the Navy team right here. And special teams, great way to cover up the mistake. And now you're within, your own 15, 20-yard line and within good scoring position.
And we start with a carry to the left side. It's quarterback keeper, actually. And to the left, a tackle for loss. There was nowhere for Randall Fanning to go. And you could see this Gold defense incredibly hyped for what's going on here.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, even though, the Navy, never mind, I'll take that back. What's it called? Yeah, the Gold defense right there, very good defense, read the option perfectly, blitzed the outside, contained that edge, and just, wrapped him up for a good loss of yards. Let's see where the momentum swings.
That was a loss of 4 yards on the play as Fanning looks He's got his man. A reception trying to push to the end zone. He's going to be stopped short, but a great reception from Jace Bollard, the sophomore from Lakeway Christian over in Morristown, Tennessee. No stats on Max Preps to highlight the great season he had, but gets a good reception there to force first and goal on the 2.
Yeah, a good season by Lakeway, too. I believe it was their first season in the TSSAA, and a good read right there by Randall Fleming. Or Flanning, excuse me. And that is a touchdown for the Navy. That it will be a 2-yard run for, I believe that is C.J. Johnson.
Navy already strike first. C.J. Johnson, more than likely the one who got the score first. And the sophomore from Springwood School out of Lynette, Alabama, had 31 rushing touchdowns on the season. Pretty much any time he would get the ball, would get a first down, and we'll see our first PAT attempt of the game from Zachariah Duke. And it's a fake. Randall Fanning, the one to hold, is under pressure, one man to beat as he slings it to the end zone and it's picked off, and they will stop it in high school. Don't know if that rule will ever be changed at the high school level where you can return a 2-pointer back for a 2 points of your own, but in that case, a fake PAT and headed back to the gold in a few moments. A 6-0 lead for the Navy with 8:22 left to go in the first quarter. Navy strikes first, capitalizing on a muffed punt. Muffed snap before the punt, I should say, as the Navy will trust Zachariah Duke to kick it off again. 73 kickoffs on the year. Pretty much a special teamer for the Navy. Pretty much any time he kicks it off, it's about 50 yards and 14 touchbacks total. You add that to his total, and we'll see how the Gold will respond on this next drive.
Also forgot to mention Spence, C.J. Johnson, who scored that touchdown. I don't remember what week it was that he won it, but he won the Extreme Offensive Player of the Week one week from Springwood. Just a quick note.
One of many accolades that happen for the players here in the All-American game. Of course, through 8-Man Extreme every week, they honor players on the offensive and defensive side as well as an overall player through the regular season. And certainly several of the players who are here have gotten at least one of those accolades that have been highlighted, as well as other all-conference awards and all-conference teams. As the Gold start out in this drive, another one slung to the outside. That's an incomplete pass right through the hands of the Gold's James Adams. We had him on our list in terms of the defensive side with 25 total tackles, and that ball being slung out there literally went through his hands, and you have to wonder how the cold affects it.
Oh, yeah. No, the cold makes your hands, a little bit harder and makes it, harder to catch the football. But what a perfect throw right there by Brooks Bryan. Put it right on the money right there for only his receiver to catch it. His receiver just couldn't come down.
And they'll go with another one of these handoffs, and swallowed up from behind is Zeke Clanton. Nowhere for him to go.
Spence, I have a sneaky suspicion this is going to be a really big defensive game.
Results in a loss of about 2 yards to bring up a 3rd and 12. As the Gold in a similar situation that they were on this last drive, facing a 3rd down, converted it for having to go 4th and out. As Brooks Bryan coordinates the orchestra. Trying to conduct the symphony of this Gold offense. He's got a little bit of time and now some pressure. Will opt to keep it himself. Can't spin out the tackles, and that will maybe a loss of a yard or back to the line of scrimmage, and another 4th and out for this Gold offense.
Of course, Spence, you know, in high school, I played D-line right there, and I recognize talent when I see it. Good work right there by the D-line to not only, you know, evade the tackles and the guards and, you know, all the other linemen, but to contain him. There were about 2 or 3 defensive linemen right there to stop him. Usually, you know, the linemen would get gassed and be on the other side of the field.
See a little bit of confusion from the Gold as they're trying to coordinate what's happening on this punt. Multiple men in motion. Is almost a blocked punt there, and there will be a flag for contacting the punter. And the Muff punt snap. Muff trying the return, and it looks like Gold got it. In addition to the penalty, a great turn of events for the Gold, especially to prevent themselves from potentially going down 2 possessions. So you've got a probably just running into the punter on that play, and now you've got a chance for the Gold to have some new life.
Yeah, this could be a big momentum swing right here for the Gold. Their offense, you know, has been stagnant all day, and then a turnover like that and a mistake on Navy like that could potentially, you know, wake their offense back up. They start to heat up, and next thing you know, it's a 6-6, 6-7, 6-8 ball game.
And that was Nathaniel Reese who muffed the punt return. Sophomore normally is a star on the defensive side. Not that much to discuss on special teams in terms of his stat lines. And makes an unfortunate mistake early here with about under 6.5 left in the first. New life for the Gold. Slinging it out again. He loves to do this so well as it's tossed way over the head. Target intended for Caleb Blaylock, the junior from Valiant Cross Academy. About 2 or 3 steps behind the ball.
Yeah, and it looked like, honestly, just like a mixed communication. Honestly, they probably weren't on the same page. Again, these guys came in 2 days ago not knowing each other's names, you know, and they're all wearing different helmets. They're all from different, you know, states. You know, nonetheless, they're not on the same page right now, but they'll get it clicking. Just talk about it in the huddle. Be like, hey, man, I needed you, you know, look up and, you know, get downfield for that catch. But they'll clean it up. They'll clean it up.
Now, certainly if they follow eight-man extreme or pay attention to any of the state or national championships, they have some familiarity with each other, but not on the level of the chemistry with their teammate brothers that they have through the season. Another muff snap in the backfield. Fortunate enough for the bounce to go his way on the recovery. That was a good recovery by Kyrie Wilson, the freshman, who managed to pick back up the ball after what could have been another disaster. As you see, we were talking on the field beforehand about Kyrie Owens and the energy he has. You see him just celebrating there, even though it could have been disastrous.
Yeah, Kyrie Owens. Didn't we have him mic'd up, Spence, for
I wouldn't have been surprised if we did.
Yeah, what a character. What a character, I'll tell you that. We were down on the field before the game. He's definitely trash talking and making jokes. So,
catch is made. Wyatt Farr gets stopped at the line of scrimmage for another 4th and out. And Coach was even talking about how Kyrie Owens has a huge sense of humor, and you see him heading off of the field now, and looks like the punt team will come back out for the Gold. They have a great opportunity there from the muffed punt return, and forced to a 4th and out again. And it's a credit to this Navy defense.
Yeah, no, Navy defense, hats off to their coaching staff for putting together this game plan. This is a lights-out defense. And their special teams has been pretty shut down, too.
In the backfield to punt, Tristan Chadwick from the Cabarrus Stallions out of North Carolina, as they're going to let this bounce all the way to the 20-yard line and touchdown at the 18. And Navy will get back to work in the offensive side. A lot more field for them to march down than their previous opportunity where they scored. You know, we mentioned it in our open how all of the coaching staff from Oakland City University, Coach Miller was telling us that almost all of their coaching staff was able to make it down here. They're about 45 minutes away from Holiday World, which is over in Santa Claus, Indiana. So within 45 minutes to an hour, just on the south side of the state. As this carry going to the right side, it's hard to bring him down, and finally a tackle made on Jericus Mackey from the Carolina Wildcats on the year, 106 carries for about 1,500 yards. Anytime he's got the ball, it's about a first down and a half for the freshman.
Yeah, what a good defensive play right there, just to get a man on him. But what a tough run by Mackey right there. Like you said, he's a hard, tough, physical runner.
Gets him a gain of about 3. Looking for the option and almost avoided the tackle there. That Randall Fanning was trying to escape from it, and a sack for the Gold defense.
So, yeah, let's see what the play call here is on third down. Do they try and air it deep? Do they try, something vanilla like a quick slant over the middle? Or do they try like a quick little screen, little running back or wide receiver screen? Let's see what they do here.
A little bit of confusion on the defensive side for Gold, trying to call a different play, and several players were trying to rush in. 3rd and 15. Looking for the pass. Another scramble forced here, and there's going to be nowhere to go for Randall Fanning. And that defense just making it so hard on Fanning, and it brings up a 4th down.
Yeah, good coaching right here by both teams, actually. Both staffs are putting it on full display. They're throwing the defensive book at them, so to speak.
To my knowledge, this will be just the second punt for the Navy. And you've got 2 punt returners deep back to receive for the Gold. And we've got our first timeout of the game, and it's called by the Navy with 2:20 left to go in the first quarter. Not a lot of points on the board, just the Navy scoring 6 as they are set to punt it back to the Gold.
Yeah, very good defensive game right here. And the only reason that 6 was scored was because of a muffed punt that was eventually called down within, the 15-yard line. And, the Navy just, did what they were supposed to do, executed, and just scored off that drive right there. But other than that, we haven't seen a lot of offensive movement at all. Everybody's kind of been shut down, so to speak. Defense has been put on full display, and that's due in part of the play calling and the coaching staff, Spence, on the Navy and the Gold.
Yeah, that and these defensive lines have already started to show out as much as they can. Pretty much any of the running plays are getting shut down unless it's a 2 or 3 yard gain. And that's why you see the Gold, you see them trying to sling it to the outside and deep. But even then, the defensive line is making it too difficult with the pressures. And a muff snap in the end zone on trying to punt it off. Barely gets it off, and there's a flag called as this will be returned from the 35 for a couple of yards by Zachariah Duke. And I believe they're going to call this roughing the punter, but with the muff snap and everything, it looks like bang, bang. Flag was thrown by the Whitecap in the backfield. And normally, if you watch our coverage, you know that we try not to be overly critical of the officials. Coach Mims wanting an explanation on this play, and it's called a false start against the offense. And then, yeah, they call roughing the kicker, and it's declined. The penalty's declined, and they'll replay fourth down. Or, I beg your pardon, it's actually the foul's offset. I don't think that should have been roughing the kicker.
I don't think so either. Punters are people too. What they don't. I don't think they should. Deserve special treatment. If you fumble the ball like that in the end zone, you should deserve, or you don't deserve, but if someone's right there in your grill, you're gonna get popped. You shouldn't have a flag called on you.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. It's like if the snap wasn't muffed, then the punter still has protections, as this is stopped for no return, essentially, forward progress called 41. But at least on that play, it's that if you, to my knowledge of how the rule is, if you muff the snap, then it's fair game because you're essentially a runner on that. So maybe it's different in high school. I'm not sure, but
no, I feel the same way. But actually, that play right there, even though it drove them back, it helped them, believe it or not, because they were, going to be at the 30 or, within the 25. Now they're all the way at the 45-yard line. Got the defense back red hot right now. Linebackers look solid. Secondary, haven't seen much of it, but we've seen one great play by number 6, the corner. I believe that's Brooks Bryan, if I'm not mistaken. And the D-line has looked phenomenal. They've done their job. They've contained. They've gotten in the backfield as much as usual. No run. I mean, there may have been one good run outside, but they've shut them down. It's been lights out defense from not only the Navy but the Gold as well.
Yeah, Coach Mims got a clarification from the official, and it looks like their Navy's going to burn a timeout here. Or I beg your pardon, that's the Gold who burns a timeout. So both teams down to 2, and they will think it over here with 1:55 left to go in the first quarter.
Okay.
Coach Mims and company get a chance to think it over with calling their timeout. 1:55 left to go in the first quarter of this Rising Stars 8-man football game, and it's going to bring us a false start back to midfield.
Yeah, and that's also been a really big component of this game right here is penalties, and defensive execution. Very people may call this a boring game. I think it's quite exciting because it shows a good physical brand of football.
And almost a muff snap in the backfield, but finding the holes after contact. Carry up to the 44-yard line for Kyrie Wilson from Christchurch Academy. Freshman from Jacksonville, Florida, gets a nice gain to make up the yards, +1 from the false start for a 2nd and 9.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there are 13 states being represented into this year's All-American. Yeah, 14, excuse me.
Around that number sounds right. As this is another slung pass to the outside, and that is an incomplete pass. You're seeing the attempts here to the left. You can tell that's his comfort zone and wherever he's wanting to pass, but the problem is the receivers are a step or two behind.
Right, yeah, and he is a right-handed quarterback, so, they typically tend to look, to the left first and then to the right side of the field. That was just his read. He thought he had it, just overthrew him a little bit. Had he underthrown that ball just a little bit, the receiver could have came back and possibly made a play. But still, it's still cold out here in Gatlinburg. Maybe it's going to take till halftime to get everybody warmed up offensively. I'd love to see some more offensive life from both teams, but it's been a good physical defensive showing so far.
Right now, 50 degrees with a high wind warning set to warm up throughout the rest of the afternoon. And to finish your thought from earlier, talk about that after this play. Slung to the left side. What a catch at the 34, 33-yard line. A great reception by Jackson Todd.
Yeah, again, like I said, right-handed quarterback looking towards the left side of the field. That play design had all his receivers, all his options on the left side. The right side of the field was wide open. So I wonder, do you try and switch it up with a run to the right? Do you go up the gut? Do you keep going down the middle? Hey, why not, throw a quick fade to the right, Switch it up a little bit. Let's see.
To finish your thought from earlier, over 200 athletes from 14 states are represented in these All-American games, or All-American Bowls. And those representing the gold are starting a new first down. Slung across the middle and incomplete. Looked like it was through the hands, and you could tell from the emotion on the field that is a pass and catch opportunity that was wanted again by, I believe that was Jeremiah Dixon from Valiant Cross Academy.
Yeah, he wanted that. That was a good running back seam, executed very well, just couldn't catch. Again, it is cold out here, Spence. I don't know if you've ever caught a football in the cold, but it's not easy. It is not easy.
Dropped a lot more passes in the cold than actually caught them, so I can testify to that. 2nd and 10. Go with that option again of the rush on the right. And to the 29-yard line, carried a chunk away a couple of yards. And Kyrie Wilson has turned out to be their main running back that they trust throughout the last offensive drives.
And see, I like this. I like this drive from the gold team right here. They're starting. Granted, it is slow. It is a slower kind of drive, but they are grinding them away. They're opening up the pass a little bit, and now they're starting to run, which, passing does open up the run game. Should be interesting to see what the rest of this offensive game plan is the rest of the quarter.
1 quarter down, 3 more to go. The Navy are the only team on the board, capitalizing off of a muffed punt return. And a 6-0 lead is what we have in the Rising Stars 8-man football game of the 2023 Gatlinburg All-American Bowls. Start of the second quarter from the Smoky Mountains in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. A 6-0 lead for the Navy Rising Stars over the Gold Rising Stars here. 12 minutes down, about 36 left to go as this is slung again to the left side, and this time it's a reception at the 5-yard line. Went to that target several times, and Jeremiah Dixon comes down with it.
Yeah, and what a perfect throw right there, and what a great route too. Kind of ran kind of a corner post, if you would. Perfect throw right there. Put it right in the bucket for his receiver to get.
First time that pass play in that corner has worked for the Gold, and now in prime scoring position on the 4-yard line. Brooks Bryan will hand it off, trying to go up the middle, stuffed. Maybe a yard gain on the rush to bring up a 2nd and goal, as that time it was carried by Brooks Bryan. And one of the things you never want to see in an All-American game, slow to get up for the Gold, is Brandon Bell, the sophomore from Southern Prep. On the year in the defensive side, he had 16 total tackles, 6 of those for loss. He was working on the offensive line and fortunately able to get up off of his own feet and jog over the sideline. And I believe, to my knowledge, Coach Roland Bell is on the sideline for Southern Prep. He's been around here throughout the weekend. Sure, he'll be checking on his player to make sure he's okay. We had an official's timeout going on, and I believe it's considering this a little more of a water break. There's another player injured as well for the Navy. We can't see him up from our perch here. Coach is going to take a look. They'll believe they do have medical training staff on site here at Rocky Top Sports World, and doesn't look like we have to step aside as the player is able to walk up on his own feet, and that is Nathan Whiting from the Augusta Eagles, who it's a big loss for Navy heading into this game if he's not able to return. About 75 carries on the year for almost 500 yards. Had several catches, over 80 tackles. So big loss there for Navy.
Yeah, that could be a big loss for Navy because he's a good two-man player. You said he was Augusta Eagles, right?
Yep, the Augusta Eagles out of Martinez, Georgia. Yeah, tough loss, and you hate it, especially for sophomore. Hopefully nothing serious as he'll be looked at by the training staff. As the Gold on a 2nd and goal from the 3-yard line look to punch it in, get their first points of the day. This will be carried here, and looks like they were trying to hand it off to the big lineman, and they finally bring him down. For the Gold, that was Kyrie Owens. You love to see, as James would call it, the big boys getting the ball and trying to carry it up, but they read right through it with him in the backfield.
Yeah, that was, a great defensive play right there. All-out blitz on the running back right there for Navy. Great way to draw it up. Good backyard football. Just say, hey, it's like in Madden when you're in a goal line set, and you just say, all right, I'm going to just send everybody. Great play right there, and it worked out perfectly.
Worked out perfectly for Navy's defense. For the Gold, however, they are back on the 10-yard line for a 3rd and goal, as they've got Zeke Clanton in the back. Bryan will toss it to the right side, looking for the reception. Great coverage for no flag and an incomplete pass.
Yeah, very interesting toss right there because it looked like he was wanting to, put his receiver on a one-on-one situation. And you may get away with that, in like a regular season game. But these are the best of the best players. The likelihood of him coming down with that is significantly less. I honestly, saw him open for a quick minute. He should have just zipped it in there, quick throw, standard bullet pass right there and just, called it. Took his points and called it a day, but nonetheless, still a good defensive play by the corner right there. Couldn't get his number. But
timeout called by Gold, and that was Parker Otto on coverage, a sophomore from Chambers Academy. No stats on Max Preps to highlight the season he has had, but a great play to prevent the touchdown as we've reached 10 minutes left in the 2nd quarter. Gold burns their second timeout of the half, one left for them to use. Facing a 4th and goal here from about the 11-yard line as their offensive coordinator, Matt Kelly from Macon East Academy, trying to work something out here on this 4th and goal. Quick sling to the left side, a good screen block, but is it enough? Not even close, gets down to the 4-yard line. It was a good reception by Jeremiah Dixon. Ended up being a good block in the initial side, but it results in a good defensive stop for the Navy.
Yeah, interesting. Like you said, it was a good block, but it was an interesting one, to say the least. He motioned his receiver from the other side of the field to block on the left side of the field. So very interesting. Did end up getting a good block. It was a, I hate to say the same word 3 times. It was a very interesting play call and interesting thought process right there.
Yeah, Coach Kelly is drawing up some interesting plays. The challenge is it's almost as if the Navy's defensive coordinator is read right through him, as this carry goes to the right side and gets out of bounds at the 11-yard line. Jalen Venter, the sophomore from the Freedom Cowboys, getting his first touch of the day. Venter, one of the multi-tool players, lack of a better term, for the Freedom Cowboys, as he's a star for them throughout the season. Champions of the Southeastern Extreme Conference for 2 years in a row, and Venter has started being of great usage for the Freedom Cowboys. Gains him about 7 yards for a 2nd and 3. Venter looking for the block, and good quick pass and catch, as not much room for Greg Johnson to work with, the junior out of Springwood School. On the season, 21 catches for 343 yards, but not necessarily a quick screen on that, but at least a quick enough pass to where defense was not able to be shaken off. Right,
and it doesn't seem like it, but that is a little bit of an aggressive play because you got 2nd and short, and then you pass it in a screen formation. That's showing, hey, I'm not scared to pass the ball. Very good play right there, play call.
And they'll hand this off up the middle. Carry for the Navy. He's not going to be stopped. It takes maybe 4 or 5 men to bring down Jalen Venter. We were talking about how great of a player he was for the Freedom Cowboys this season. Gain of 10+.
Yeah, great run by Venter right there. And it's something about the Freedom offensive system. They know every running back from Freedom knows how to run. They have a great running back system at Freedom.
No run attempt here, weaving through the defensive line. And that twice now the Gold have had a situation where it's taken 4 players to bring down whoever's carrying the ball, and usually you're never supposed to beat the 3rd man.
No. But that still is good gang tackling. Very well coached by Team Gold right there. But also, can I talk about the quarterback for a minute? What elusiveness by Fanning right there, to escape 1, 2, and 3 guys from the defense right there. Granted, still a loss of yards, but still an impressive play nonetheless.
Loss of 3 for a 2nd down, and this catch is quickly made. Heading to the right side. That ball is being forced out of bounds is Greg Johnson.
That's a big old boy right there. He looks like, is he a tight end, Spence?
His primary position. I mean, you could say he's a tight end for certain. He's been on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, mostly on receptions. I wouldn't be surprised if him or his brother CJ are both used for that. Both very big builds.
He looks like he could be a tight end / defensive end or linebacker mix.
3rd and 11, toss across the middle, incomplete. Looked like it could have been interceptable by Kyrie Wilson. Saw him stretch his arms up and brings up a 4th and 2, and now a decision to be made by Matt Kelly and company.
Yeah, Johnson I don't think he saw the ball in enough time to react to it, but he didn't reach for it. He didn't even make an effort to get it. Quarterback should have put it a little bit lower, but with a corner on you like that, it's a risky throw. So, still great coverage right there by the defense. And coach is calling, hey, get ready for the fake.
managed to get off the punt. And this will be attempted on the return. May have a little bit of space here. Going back for the return. Nobody else is going to get him. Kyrie Wilson for the touchdown.
And Spence, I told you, this game will come down to defense and special teams. Great special teams execution right there by, you said Kyrie Wilson? Yes, Kyrie Wilson right there. Good blocking right there on the punt return. Great way to see the holes and the gaps by Wilson right there. And as soon as you know it, it's a tie ball game.
It's very rare. We have a good perch up here in the booth. It's very rare that I see whenever a punt return is happening, that's a touchdown. I could see that all day from Kyrie Wilson. You knew he was going to get into the end zone.
Yeah, that blocking was phenomenal. Yeah, and, he just hit the hole right, and he just burst in that seam, and he was good as gone.
And there's a flag in the backfield, I believe, for a delay of game or false start, and they're calling a field goal with it being from distance, or a PAT. It should be. As we'll see another point after attempt, this time from Tristan Chadwick from the Cabarrus Stallions. Again, no statistics publicly available on Max Preps for Tristan. And this one barely escapes the crossbar.
Yeah, and we had an opportunity here recently to mic up the kickers. I don't believe he was the one mic'd up. I believe it was, who was it? I know there was one from Georgia and then another from Freedom. I couldn't tell you their names off the top of my head. But, yeah, very good kick right there, sneaking it in. And next thing you know, it's a 7-6 ball game. Gold's got the lead.
Kyrie Wilson's first punt return touchdown on the season. He's had some major kickoff returns before. Had one this year, 2 returns for 75 yards in one game alone. Total on the season, 3 kickoff returns for 120 yards. And that was just his second punt return of the season. His first one was for 27. That one, I believe, for about 55, 60. And a great boost of life for the Gold to give them their first points of the game. Looks like an offside false start on the kicking team. Gives them the 7-6 lead over the Navy. And they'll just move this back 5 yards. It's ruled offsides.
So, Spence, while we have a minute, why don't we highlight some of the states that are representing this year's All-American game? I know it's Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, off the top of my head, Delaware, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Florida, right?
You got a decent amount of those right, the majority of them being in the Southeast. Of course, we mentioned Delaware, one of the states, one athlete being represented from there. As this return from the 38-yard line will go to about the 45. You got, of course, Texas and Oklahoma. Good old Missouri, Louisiana. Almost feel like the Animaniacs trying to recite all of these states here. Indianapolis and Ohio. We mentioned Delaware. Tennessee, both Carolinas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. 14 states, over 200 athletes combined in the entirety of these competitions.
Yeah, and that's one thing about this this weekend and as an event in general. This has exploded in popularity since I've played here last. I remember it used to just be 8 and 11 man. Now it's, rising stars, and then 8 11 man juniors and seniors. It's really grown over the years.
As this will be tossed to the right side, incomplete, receiver in the area, so no Intentional grounding pass intended there for Jace Bollard, the sophomore from Lakeway Christian. And you talked about the growth of this game. You know, we were here for the first original ones hosted by Rocky Top in 2020. The COVID year, the first one that they had the challenge of doing those that all-star games, and wasn't on site here. Can't remember which high school it was, but one in the area that had more bleacher space, that allowed for more social distancing, and then they've continued to build from there. It was just the 8-man and 11-man games, and then they've added it, I believe in 21, they added the Rising Stars game because
I was 22.
Yeah, it's 2022 they added it. And it was because there's just so many of the game itself was initially intended anyone could get into it, and there were several freshmen, and the thought process was you want the seniors to be honored as much as possible. You want more seniors to be in here as their final game for their high school careers. And it expanded from there of, well, we've got, this is seniors and juniors, sophomores with special exceptions, like if they're absolutely phenomenal and would be a travesty if they were not included. And from there, they decided, well, we've got too many great juniors that we can't exclude them, as this is a carry to the right side. 34 for the Navy is weaving out of a tackle, finally brought down. As we get back to the actual game action, as much as we want to highlight the game, C.J. Johnson from Springwood School gets the big carry.
Yeah, C.J. Johnson right there. I told you, he's a tight end, DN, maybe a linebacker mix. Throwing running back in there. He seems like a good all-around athlete and can play almost anywhere on the field.
But just to finish that thought, seniors being highlighted in the games primarily, juniors being mixed. In the 8-man scene, there's just been so many amazing upperclassmen throughout the year that they had to split it off into a juniors game for 8-man, which will be at 1 o'clock on the lower field. And they had to split it off for the seniors game. As this carry on the left side, it looks like right from the get-go, Jericus Mackey was stumbling or not really comfortable in his steps and resulted in a loss of 1.
Yeah, it may have been a shaky handoff between the quarterback and Mackey right there. I couldn't tell you, but, and he may also, his tendencies may, he may be a right side runner or, somebody who likes to, sit behind the line and then wait for a hole to open up and then hit it. He didn't look super comfortable right there with that run.
Loss of a yard on the play for a 2nd and 11. Quick screen, left side, looking for a few yards gain. Gets a little bit more than that. This time a catch by Greg Johnson.
Yeah, and not to jump to conclusions too soon here, but Greg Johnson, somebody to watch out for offensive MVP. He's been involved in almost every facet of the game possible. He's been, on the ground, been good on the ground, been good through the air. He's been blocking. Very good offensive showing from Johnson right here.
And this defensive stop is partially important. Gold received it to start out the game, so Navy's going to get the ball to start the second half as carry here to about the 20-yard line. Not much room for Mackey to work with. And Gold only have 1 timeout, so if they do get the ball back here, it's not much for them to rush a 2-minute drill, because you talk about how in high school they don't really practice those as much. You surely don't practice those for these All-American games.
Oh, no. The All-American games, honestly, they just work on, okay, here's the play calling, here's the formation. We may do a little bit of tackling, not sure. We'll figure that out. But it's mainly just, hey, we got this team together, in 2 to 3 days. Let's try and, all understand the playbook.
As to the left side, that was a carry attempt by Jalen Venter, but immediately swallowed up from behind by James Adams, the sophomore from Bethlehem Christian. He had 25 tackles on the year, 6 of them tackle for losses, and 17 on his own.
Yeah, it looked like he had a hole open on the outside. It looked like the outside was open, and it looked like he had a hole between the left tackle and the left guard. But, it's a shame because, the defensive end, came in there full speed and just caught up to him, caught him by his ankles, and it's a good defensive play and a loss of yards.
Looking for the pass under pressure, escapes it. Up top, if catch was made or the pass was made a little bit lower to Greg Johnson, he would have been gone to the end zone.
Yeah, that's a Aaron Rodgers-esque type play right there. He had the touch perfect.
Oh, yeah.
He looted the pocket. I mean, even his movement looked like, a pocket, like a pro pocket passer. Impressive display from Fanning right here. If only he had caught on. God,
Right.
I wish he caught that.
And maybe if
that hurt me.
It may have been if the pass was a little bit lower too, because you saw that Johnson had to really stretch for it.
Oh, that hurt me.
And it looks like Navy is going to call their second timeout of the half. So both teams with one left. 2:11 left to go here in the first half. The Rising Stars 8-man football game. That's a great question, James. All right. I was telling James that's a great question. James running around as usual. We're getting set up for broadcasting 2 games at once down at the lower field. 11-man game will be up here as this carry up the middle. Jalen Venter is going to get to about the 15-yard line. That won't be enough for the first down, and certainly the Navy will try to go for it here. They might try to kick a field goal. And let's talk about James Shannon running around, getting set up for our 2 games. We got the 11-man game here. Lower field, we'll have the juniors game for 8-man football. And Navy marching down the field. It looks like they're going to go for the field goal attempt.
Yeah, not a bad move, honestly. 4th down, running clock. Why not wait till the play clock runs out and then kick it? That way you take a 2-point lead. The Gold only has 1 timeout, and they can't really run a 2-minute drill unless they're, utilize the clock right. But, again, you're going to milk the clock, so we'll see.
Looks like this is Blaze Ehrig punting for it with the field goal attempt, and it is no good. It's wide. I beg your pardon, actually. That was Zachariah Duke from Georgia Force who attempted it, and he was 1 for 8 on field goals for the year and misses one there and a turnover. With the missed field goal attempt, it is back over to the Gold with 1:13 to march down about 75 yards.
Yeah, and that's an uncharacteristic miss right there. He made a 46-yard field goal last night during the kickers clinic. So, let's see if he can come back from that miss. He'll get another opportunity.
Yeah, he had plenty of those on the year. 35-36 on PATs. Tried 8 field goals. With that one, make it 9 total on the 2023 campaign. Let's see what the Gold can do. 80 yards to march down the field. And a 73-second drill. Trying to find the option under pressure. Nowhere to go for Brooks Bryan. A sack credited to the Navy defense.
Yeah, it looked like he wanted to turn that shoulder and then, roll out and just look for his next option. But he got tripped up. But still, nonetheless, good pressure right there. But I believe that is number 41 for the Navy. That is Daniel Phillips, Jr., if I'm correct.
I got Drew Shepard on 41, the sophomore for Chambers
that's right.
Academy.
Sorry, looked at the wrong one. Okay, yeah, Drew Shepard for Chambers. Yeah, great defensive play right there. Great hurry. Way to stick his hand in there.
2nd and a quarter of the field after that sack. And now a scramble, looking for the pass on the left side. Incomplete. Almost looked like Jeremiah Dixon sucked it in on one hand, but didn't have enough of the angle, and it brings up a 3rd and quarter of the field.
Yeah, he turned that back shoulder real quick and then got his body square, but, it just wasn't in time. He didn't look in time to pull in the ball. Let's see what they do here on third down. Should be interesting with 22 seconds left.
And there's not much for Brooks Bryan to do, really. Anytime he's stepping back in the pocket, he's maybe got a maximum of a second and a half without feeling the pressure.
Yeah, and it doesn't help. He doesn't have any room right now. So, in his own end zone, and he's, having to run for his life back there. Let's see. Do they take the short dump off and run down the clock, or do they say, hey, let's be aggressive right here and gun it down the middle for deep yardage?
Third and long. Bryan is going to scramble. He'll keep it himself. He's got some open space in the middle, and he'll dive down. Not enough for the first down, but Gold will use their final timeout with 11 seconds left to go on a fourth down, which essentially they get back up to, looks like the 25 or 24-yard line. So maybe you have a Hail Mary here, or maybe you just knee it out or something along those lines. Not much for them to work with.
I don't believe they would take a timeout and then kneel it out, because if they do, then the Navy would get the ball back and then they would, kick the field goal. But I believe they'll probably try it for deep, and depending on how quick the play, works out, I think Navy will try and get a field goal in. They just, again, got to get a first down, got to get out of bounds. Don't really have time to, do a quick huddle or hurry up and spike it. You've got to, find a man, maybe like a little out route to the sideline for the first down, and then, address it from there. But we'll see what happens right here.
One of the final plays of the first half is about a 4th and 5, and it's a quick toss. Spin tackle trying to get to the first down marker, and he got well past it, and it'll be stopped for the first down. But you got 5 seconds. They'll stop it to move the chains, but you got to quickly spike it down. And you see Gold is trying to get it taken care of, and they will run the clock. Final few seconds.
Gotta spike it.
They're not going to spike it. They're just going to let it wind down. Should have looked at the play clock or kept it in the back of his head. They couldn't get it off, and that will end the first half for the Rising Stars game for high school 8-man football. 7-6, the Gold lead over the Navy. It's been a close game, defensive heavy all around, and the Gold lead by just a point after. We'll be back in about 10 minutes for coverage of the second half here from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We welcome you back to the Smoky Mountains in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Second half coverage about to begin here for the 2023 Rising Stars All-American Game for high school 8-man football. Spencer Thompson, Blake Biggs, tandem producers Alex Chasen and Jack Helwig. Entire crew here has been on site since Thursday, covering the opening ceremonies for the teams, filming for practices, getting mic'd up player footage, and getting all the stuff done behind the scenes. We've been on site since about 8:30 this morning, and we got this game going on. 2 games we'll cover simultaneously in about an hour or so, and then 4 p.m. contest for the senior 8-man football games, as this spin goes to about the 30-yard line with the short kickoff return. And the Navy will get to work on offense to start out the second half. What did you like the most from both teams in the first half, Blake?
I love the defensive play from the line. They got some big boys up there. I'll say that. And I know defensive line talent when I see it. Very good job at containing the quarterback, not letting him get out of the pocket too much and run for too many yards. Sacking him in the backfield. Very good play from all linebackers and the secondary. Definitely hoping to see more from the wide receiving core from both teams, but overall good play from everyone.
And they called a penalty on the Gold. It was a legal substitution. And that'll push it forward to the 35-yard line for the Navy to start out with on this drive. Only score they had was when they were placed inside of the 20-yard line and punched it in after a couple of runs to the right. And we'll see if the Navy can drive it down the field to put themselves in a better position. And that's not going to be a better position for them to be in, as they have the muff snap, and it was an easy opportunity for Hudson Patrick, the junior from the Cabarrus Stallions, to take advantage of.
Yeah, like I said, Spence, great defensive line play here, especially from Hudson Patrick right there. Just came in off the edge and just said, all right, all dogs go. Went in there flying. Quarterback got sacked. Very good defensive play right there from the D-line and Hudson Patrick.
Fortunate enough that didn't result in too heavy of a loss. Did result in a loss of the penalty. It was a 1st and 5, and then brought back for a 2nd and 10 on the loss. And another loss brings it down to about a 3rd and 12, and that will force the Gold to burn their first timeout of the half. And very early on start, not even 60 seconds into the second half, and a timeout's already burned.
Yeah, only 2 plays in, and that brings up the question, is it stagnant offense or really good defense, Spence?
You tell me. I think it's been a mixture of both.
Yeah, honestly think, wide receiving room has not gotten a lot of separation from the corner. The corners have been, real good thus far, but, the defensive line, has held the quarterback at standstill, has held him hostage pretty much. Running backs have got a little bit of space, but, I think that's due in part to the O-line. The O-line needs to step up, protect their quarterback. Yeah, they are sending, 4 or 5 guys, at him at a time, but you've got to communicate if you're on the line. You've got to give your quarterback at least a chance to make a play. I definitely do think the defense, is very talented, but then again, we have seen drops and, other miscues on offense. So I think it's more so just better defense and stagnant offense.
After the timeout, it brings up a 3rd and 12. Navy having some issues on offense. Can they get it back here? Slung to the right side, looking like an interception. Our first one of the day. This interception by the Golds, Travis Barton Jr., the freshman from the Cabarrus Stallions.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate right there. I mean, the pocket collapsed in under, 2 seconds. So he had to run for his life, and, he did have a receiver downfield, and it was a good ball, just a better corner, and just unfortunate that it happened. But, if you're O-line, That's why the O-line is important right there. It stops stuff like that from happening because if he gets the chance to, just send the pocket, relax for a minute, and then zip it downfield for a 5 or 3 yard gain, stuff like that does not happen.
First defensively forced turnover of the day, as this is high and outside. Looked like it could have also been intercepted had Blaze Ehrig been in position and slung to the right side, and you could tell that Coach Mims not happy with the toss.
Yeah, no, not a good toss at all. I guess he was maybe a misfire on there, but I would have loved to see the corner make a play. I mean, I think that would have summed up this game perfectly, Spence.
And we've talked about it several times throughout the first half and continuing on through the game, how the defensive line and offensive line on both sides of the ball has been the difference. Getting pressures to the quarterback, not allowing runs, as this is going to be a pass. Pump fakes, and the catch is incomplete. Looked like it was going to be a catch by Dixon. It looked like he secured it, but it bounced off of his chest pads.
Yeah, and that's a real bummer with passes like that. Low, not quite to the ground, but low to the sideline. Can't really, move around a bunch at all. You kind of got to, you got to cradle it. You got to catch it like you're cradling it. And then it leaves room, for a bounced ball off the chest plate. Just a tough play. Just a tough play. And those are hard to make.
Brings up a 3rd and 10. Gold trying to capitalize off of this interception and increase their lead. And under duress, this will be tossed out of bounds. The ball initially intended for Tristan Chadwick, sophomore of the Cabarrus Stallions, and to widen outside. And makes sense because Weston Mikulak, the freshman also from the Cabarrus Stallions, had heavy pressure in his face.
Right, yeah, and again, that is, an issue with the O-line for both teams, actually. But Spence, looks like, yeah, they're going to do a formation change. So, question, so I'm new to the Rising Stars game, not really familiar with it all. So does that mean they get an automatic bid to next year's Junior All-American Bowl, or is it just like hey, you're good? No? Okay.
There's never any automatic bids, aside from in the kickoff games, the Black Bear Brawls that they just started this year. The most valuable player for each of the games does receive an automatic bid to go to the All-American games later on in the year. And in bid, it's essentially they call a scholarship where they get their lodging paid for.
Oh, wow.
And that's for the first. They did 3 games this year. They might expand it in 2024. But that's the way they do it. But in terms of the Rising Stars games, there's never really any automatic bids because this especially. You could have a killer season your freshman year, and then sophomore year you could either
hit a
get
slump.
Injured or a slump or something like that. So
okay,
that would be interesting if they did an automatic bid for like the MVP players or something along those lines.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Maybe a little more motivational factor for the players as they're already motivated enough, and clearly there's enough motivation here from C.J. Johnson, who gets to the 46-yard line, just slipping through the defense, and moves the chains into Gold territory.
So, Spence, with that in mind, who is your, very, very early pick to make next year's All-American Bowl based off what we see here today?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great players, and you think about it as well. Several of these players are sophomores, and it's especially in the 8-man game. If it happens to have juniors, the Junior Bowl next year, talk about that in a second. As here's another carry to the right side. That's Jerichus Mackey, who gets back to a gain of about a yard for a 2nd and 9. If they do the same format this year as they do next year, where they have so many good juniors that they have to have a Juniors Bowl, then you could see potentially these sophomores. I mean, the Johnson brothers have been pretty good so far. I mean, Whiting, Fanning has also looked good. So they might be good for the juniors All-American game. But it just depends on how many players are around, how many get nominated for next year. There's a lot of question marks about that. So far, what I've seen, any of these guys could go to go to the bowl games next year as he slings it out under pressure and in coverage, incomplete. Good coverage, nothing to warrant a pass interference. Jacob Booth, the sophomore from the Cabarrus Stallions, in coverage there on the receiver for the Navy, Jace Ballard from Lakeway Christian.
Yeah, and Spence, that was a hard question, but, I do think, based off what I see, Hudson Patrick and Greg Johnson, and the other Johnson brother are all both my early picks. And now I wouldn't say early picks, but to put on my watch list, so to say, for, hey, they may be around in Gatlinburg next year, who knows. But should be interesting to see. So you never know who's going to, have a good year and make an appearance.
All these players very much deserving to get here as well. Third down, slung into the 38-yard line. That catch is made by Carter Simmons, the sophomore from Russell Christian. Russell Christian with that incredible overtime comeback that we were on call for in Tuscaloosa back. Doesn't feel like it was a month ago. But it literally was quite a month ago when we had that overtime game, and certainly Simmons was one of many players that led them to that overtime win. As here's a gap to the middle, a touchdown saving tackle in the secondary, but a great rush by the Navy, and of course, who else but C.J. Johnson?
Yeah, and I'm going to highlight those two pass plays there. The O-line, compared to the rest of the game, has looked a world of difference. Gave the time quarterback to sit and throw and gave the running back some space.
Time to sit and throw with the reception, diving for the pylon, touchdown, Greg Johnson. It's been the Johnson Brothers show all day, and this time Greg gets it in the corner, Navy back on top.
And see, I love that play action right there because, again, right-handed quarterback, he's going to look to his left side. So play action, you fake it to the running back, but you look at the receiver at the same time. You saw him streaking downfield. That's automatic right there.
The Johnson brothers have been fantastic in their respective junior and sophomore years for Springwood School. Greg, 6 rushing touchdowns on the year. His brother CJ with 31 rushing touchdowns on the year. And as we see a 2-point conversion attempt here, looking for the option, and will be brought down in the backfield. No good. You saw that there were no options for Randall Fanning to work with, and just keeps it as a 5-point lead with 8:15 left to go in the third quarter. And a good show for the Navy as they drive it down to get back on top by 5. As this will be booted to the end zone for a touchback. And I want to give a shout out to our producer Jack Helwig for pointing this out. So Randall Fanning has been having a little bit of challenges. We actually noticed he's been limping a little bit for the Navy. So he's fairly banged up. He's getting a chance to rest, and that could be a game-changing factor for the Gold, especially because I believe it was the Navy who were telling us that Fanning is their only quarterback.
Yeah.
So they don't really have any other options unless they go to an emergency quarterback in that regard, because the only person they have, I think it was Mike Barnett of the Carolina Wildcats, did not come out to Gatlinburg. So the question then comes down to who's your emergency backup, or do you just stick to Wildcat formations?
Yeah, I say stick to Wildcat formation and let Johnson, carry the rock and just run with it if I was the Navy team right now.
Maybe give it back to Venter as well. He's been in that situation for the Cowboys. Left side catch past the 20-yard line, and it took so many defenders to stop Jeremiah Dixon, the junior from Valiant Cross Academy, and brings up a second down and 10 with about no gain. Maybe they'll give him a yard or two on the play. I was waiting for the sticks to move on a 2nd and 8.
Now, Spence, you mentioned Venter. Completely forgot to mention him. I would also add him to my watch list for, possibly returning next year, not as a rising star, but as an All-American.
Yeah, Jalen Venter, again, as a sophomore heading into his junior year. The Freedom Cowboys, we mentioned it, won the Southeastern Extreme Conference Championship this year over the Tennessee Heat, and winning that contest, especially when they had a down year, which is very rare for the Freedom Cowboys. They had a down year and chose not to go to Florida because of that, though. They would have looked dangerous had they gone down there. And opening up the middle for the rush. And looked like that was Dixon again with the carry. And it goes up for a gain of another couple of yards. And they're getting positive gains on these runs up the middle, but the challenge is it's not resulting in first downs. These chunk plays are going maybe 2 or 3 yards, but you're not getting the first downs you need because – you're only getting about 2 yards per play. 3 downs and you're short.
Yeah, and honestly, that boils down to coaching. It's a risk versus reward kind of deal, and that varies person to person. I'm a very when it comes to play calling, I feel like I'm more willing to take a risk. Let's run a 5-yard in route to get a few yards rather than a 2-yard run. A little bit more dangerous, but more rewarding.
And Gold is going to burn their second time out of the second half we're not even halfway through the third quarter, and the Gold are already down to 1 timeout. You see in the NFL or in college and such, you don't want to say it's mismanagement of the game in a sense, but burning 2 timeouts can really come back to haunt you.
Yeah, especially, in a game like this where they typically end pretty close, so to say. So, in the fourth quarter when you need a 2-minute drive and you don't have but 1 or 2 or maybe no timeouts, it kind of puts you in a bad, position, so to speak. But, if I was the Gold right now, I'd start airing it out right now. What do you have to lose except, like a 5 or 10-yard gain? I understand there's been, concerns about drops, but at some point, receivers have got to heat up.
On about a 3rd and 5, slung across the middle in triple coverage. He found his man. What a great reception for the Gold. James Adams, the sophomore from Bethlehem Christian, found the opening, and they've moved the chains.
Spence, what I try to tell you. They try to, risk reward, And looks like there's a timeout by Navy.
They call I believe their second timeout of the half. Or it's an injury timeout. Okay, so not charged to anybody. But it looks like for the Navy, unfortunately, that's Parker Otto, the sophomore from Chambers Academy, who is down. And the training staff are going to have to look at him, which, again, you hate it in these all-star games to see any sort of injuries. And while they tend to him, we will stay. good news is they brought over a golf cart to the Navy sideline in case they need to transport player off anywhere. Again, we'll see if we can get any word on Parker Otto as he is looked at on the sideline. Here's a carry to the left side. Another rush, plowing his way down to the 49-yard line. That's another great carry for the Gold. Zeke Clanton, the junior from Bethlehem Christian on the year. He had 58 carries for just under 750 yards. Usually anytime he touches the ball, he's getting you 13 yards. And another great run there to make it a 2nd and 3.
Yeah, and Bethlehem Christian, that's one team I've noticed. They've every year have had someone in either the Rising Stars or the All-American bowl game. Very good program out of Georgia. Where I believe they're close to Athens, Georgia. I don't know the town name exactly, but I believe it's somewhere close to Athens.
One of our broadcast crew members would love the mention of Athens, Georgia, and Brendan Daniel being a Dogs fan. Here's another rush up the middle, and it'll move the chains for a first down a little bit more. Down to the 42-yard line is Zeke Clanton again.
See, and that's one thing I've noticed here in the second half. O-line play has gotten a lot better. Good running. I'd say feed it to Zeke. Not Zeke Elliott, but Zeke Clanton. Probably playing better than Ezekiel Elliott right now. I'm kidding. Yeah.
You're already making NFL comparisons.
That's a joke.
We're at that point of the day.
That's a joke.
You almost triggered our producer, Alex Chase, because Zeke Elliott's now with the Patriots. So.
He got me 15 points in fantasy. I'm okay.
Well, it looks like if you have Zeke Clanton on your fantasy team, if they had fantasy football at this part of the season or in any capacity for high school football, he would certainly get you on there. And we've got a flag in the backfield. Maybe one of the players for Gold chirping a little too much. Or it might be a hold. Yeah. That's a late hit called against Gold, so 15-yard penalty.
Man, that is a real drive killer right there. It looked like, the Gold offense had, just a little bit of life going in them. Again, like I said, the D-line has been absolutely dominant today from both sides. And it looked like, they were driving them downfield. The O-line was, getting them downfield. You ought to put up a missing poster, like missing, Navy D-line. But, that's a real, drive killer right there. Puts them in a really bad position. We'll see how they respond right here. Hopefully they can, open it up through the air. Should be interesting to see.
And they still are credited with the first down on that since it was a dead ball foul. So from the 47-yard line, they'll at least have a new set of downs, but have to make up for a lost yardage. Pressure in the backfield. It's been so comfortable tossing it in that direction, and it's incomplete. The pass intended for Tristan Chadwick, and good coverage, no flag. A little bit of chirping from the fans, maybe hoping for something there, but just good coverage both sides for a second down.
Yeah, I really do think there was something there. I saw a little bit of tug, but, what do I know? What do I know?
How many arguments would you say you had in your football career with the officials?
I never really argued with the officials because
Good.
the way I saw it, I mean, there was one game where we went down to Mississippi. They were pretty bad. But you never want to argue over a call. You want to argue and fight for the next call, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's good to get on the ref's good side because then you'll see the next call will be in your favor.
2nd and 10. Another slung pass out, and this defense is just reading right through it. You saw an immediate anticipation from Josh Jackson, the sophomore from Franklin Classical School. 36 total tackles on the year, 15 of them on his own. You add that to his total, and very much anticipating that catch and attempted run by Jeremiah Dixon.
Did FCS did they change their helmets up? Or
I believe they may have. It looks like they may have changed their helmets. Well, it could have also been story, of course, for those of you watching. The jerseys are supplied by Rocky Top Sports World with the registration fees. You bring your own helmets and the rest of your equipment and shorts and pads and all of that, but you get to wear your helmets to represent your team in a sense. So my guess is that it could be they changed their helmets, or maybe he forgot his helmet and had to get a spare one. Because you're right, it's usually that dark green with the Knights logo on it. Which is a little bit abnormal as Zeke Clanton tries to get through and is swallowed by the defensive line.
Yeah, and good play right there by the DN right there. I couldn't catch the number right there, but, he had that tight end on him, blocking him pretty good, got around him, and then got to the running back. Very good play to clean it up right there. But, no, to mention your point, for 21, the guy from Franklin Classical, I thought that was a guy from Russell because Russell wears that same face mask with the same color helmet, the shell.
Yeah, unless they change numbers on us. Might be a question for Eli Cornett. He's operating the cameras down below. And toss right side. Catch is made with the pressure and trying to weave through down to about the 20-yard line. It'll be short of the first down, but a good catch by Zeke Clanton.
Yeah, and very interesting situation right here because you are in, third and short. Defensive line has been good all day. Pass really hasn't been there. Do you try and run this up, with red-hot Zeke? Do you try and do a little read option, a little misdirection? What do you do here if you're the gold?
It's a good question for Matt Kelly, their offensive coordinator, to figure out on this play. They've got only about a yard or two to gain to extend the drive as they are in the red zone. Clanton to the right of Bryan, and you couldn't have any more disaster than that. And waiting for the signal, I believe it's a turnover. Looked like the Gold may have fallen on it at first, but a disaster for the Gold offense.
Yeah, that is not what anybody on Gold had in mind. I don't think that's how they drew it up, Spence. That is not how they drew it up.
And what looked like a easy potential run up the middle for Clanton or Bryan to get the first down turned into a muffed snap. And now the Navy with a 5-point lead and under 2 minutes left to go in the third quarter have a chance to march it down and get more options. Here's Johnson again trying to get to the outside across midfield. So difficult to stop C.J. Johnson. And we've got a stoppage on the field for the first down. It looks like it may have been for an injury, but C.J. Johnson gets a big gain for the Navy.
Running backs have been cooking this game, Spence. It's been a very good display of running. Very good display of the D-line and the defense too. Very good defensive and running game wise output from both teams.
Start this new set of downs from the 48-yard line, and they will be forced back into their own territory. It looked like it was a carry attempt by Greg Lehan, the sophomore from Harvest Christian. He's usually easy money. Anytime he gets the ball, it's usually getting a first down. He gets tripped up for the loss of 2. They'll count it for a loss of 3 for a 2nd and 13. As the Navy try to capitalize on this fumble recovery, they'll sling it across the middle. Incomplete. What great coverage. You saw the seatbelt move from the Gold Star Kyrie Wilson. Our producer, Jack Elwick, I don't think it was Wilson, but there was the one player they had mic'd up, and he was trying to catch passes. He kept doing that seatbelt seatbelt dance move.
You know why that is? Because he's strapped. Strapped him down. Good physical play. Nothing on offense, and that's the thing. That's a very impressive play. Johnson, very big player. It's hard to guard that. I don't know if you've tried to guard a tight end or wide receiver of a big physical frame, but it's not easy.
And they're going to sling it out again to the right side. There's the catch made for the Navy. Jace Ballard, the sophomore from Lakeway Christian, has got him to an 11-point lead.
Yeah, and it looks like Randall Fanning, is not really leaping anymore after that, grab and go. He was running all the way to the end zone to congratulate his receiver on that Jace Ballard.
Jace Ballard with no stats available on Max Preps, the sophomore from Lakeway Christian, based out of Morristown, Tennessee, has led the Navy to an 11-point lead as there is looks like a timeout called on the field. 12 seconds left to go here in the third quarter. I'm not sure who called the timeout there. I would assume possibly Navy, unless Gold decided to just burn all of them for the end of the third quarter, and it was the Navy. They burned their first time out of the half. Maybe deciding what they want to do here, if they go for the PAT or decide to try to make it a 13-point lead. This has just been a tough showing for the Gold so far. Point after attempt goes over the mesh and good.
What did you just call it? The mesh?
Yeah, mesh.
Mesh?
I'm thinking ice hockey where they have the mesh around the nets and everything. So the netting mesh on that.
I thought you were calling the building the mesh. I was
no,
like,
no,
the what?
It goes over the mesh behind the field goal. But yes, it went on top of that back facility there.
I'm sorry, I thought that was funny. I thought you were calling the building the mesh.
So tonight our post game party will be at the mesh.
The what? The mesh. You mean the field house? No, the mesh.
That's the nickname for it, don't you know? We are at that point in the Rising Stars game. Now a 12-point lead here for the Navy. And it's just a testament to how tough it is for this Navy defense for anything to get through them. And you could attribute part of it to some of the play calls for the Gold, because a lot of it is they're depending very heavily on Zeke Clanton with their rushing to get through. But even on the passing plays they attempt, you could clearly tell their Brooks Bryan, their starting quarterback, he loves tossing it to the left side deep, and it just really hasn't done anything for him thus far.
Yeah, you can definitely tell he favors that left long ball. Loves to gun it down there, but at some point, what do you say? Hey, let's switch it up a little bit. Maybe get another quarterback in there. Maybe run it a little bit. Maybe run a little misdirection, counter, triple option. Just throw something else out there for us to deal with. But if that's what they think is going to work, then by all means, don't let me tell you what to do.
This will be tossed to the left side with the catch. Down to about the 28-yard line. Another reception for Zeke Clanton, who, the junior from Bethlehem Christian, he's put in a lot of work today. He's really been the centerpiece of this Gold offense.
Right.
And that is going to take us to the end of the third quarter. 12 minutes remaining in the Rising Stars contest for high school 8-man football as the Navy lead by 12 here in the Smoky Started the fourth quarter here at Legion Field within Hammond Stadium in the Rising Stars 8-man game, as quick toss and catch immediately stopped at the 32-yard line. Good defense by the Navy. Spencer Tomset, Blake Biggs, co-producers Alex Chasen and Jack Helwig, our entire crew running this contest here. We've got two games that we'll be covering simultaneously in about an hour. The Juniors 8-man All-American game and the 11-man All-American game, set to be both hosted here on the 8-Man Extreme YouTube channel. Of course, proud to be with you in Gatlinburg, Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains, as this is a toss quick to the right side and incomplete. Pass intended for Kyrie Wilson, and you heard people from the sideline shouting ball, and finally the official rules it dead, realizing it may have been a lateral but ruled not.
Yeah, no, it did look for like a minute like it was a backward, wasn't a forward pass, but, you know, officials ruled it dead. That one's kind of up in the air. You can honestly either call that either way, but
with the incompletion, it'll bring up a 2nd and 10 on the 32-yard line. Slung across the middle again, and up top trying to get the catch incomplete. And that's been the story of the day for the Gold Rising Stars. James Adams from Bethlehem Christian tried to go, not necessarily climb the ladder, but maybe he should have on that pass attempt, as it's incomplete.
Yeah, and again, when the play's been there, the reception hasn't. It's just been a story of just drop balls, and it's really unfortunate. It doesn't really do the quarterback any justice, because, you know, what as a quarterback can you do when you're throwing a perfect ball and it gets dropped like that?
Quick toss right side, almost intercepted. It was through the hand of Parker Otto. If only he was a little bit to the right, he could have picked it, and looked like it was open turf for him to run towards the end zone, and it results in a 4th and 10.
I know he wanted that one back, because he's down on the field just like, dang it, I wish I had that. But you're right. If he had been over to the right, and honestly, it looked like he tipped it up in the air for just a little bit. You know, maybe if he had caught that in the air, I don't know. Very interesting to see how that one would have played out.
And once again, the Gold Rising Stars will be forced to punt it away. Almost a blocked punt attempt. You could see from the secondary that was Spencer Newman, the sophomore from Chambers Academy, almost got it. You also saw he very carefully make sure to grab the punter and not shove him down or anything to make sure he didn't get a call of, or get a penalty against him, and that will get the Navy back to work on their own 26-yard line. $10:59 left to go in this Rising Stars 8-man football game, as this is a carry up the left side and plowed through to the 31-yard line. So the Navy will just continue to, probably the rest of their plan, to rush it around and just continue to going around. As we mentioned the mountains of Gatlinburg is where the players get to play here, and Coach Tim Smith actually put it best for us. It's different. It's a different type of cold on the mountain. It may say that, even Alex was telling us about this, him growing up in the Boston area, that the sun helps, especially that first night. It was 41 degrees. Felt like it was in the 20s. And that's one of the special elements to the All-American games, is that you have the cold in the winter, especially a few weeks out from Christmas. And mountains are always beautiful. Looks like a Hallmark Christmas special, especially when it's snowing around here. This is the first year in a while where it hasn't snowed on the mountains.
Yeah, I think the year I was in it, it didn't snow. It was relatively pretty warm. I remember it was up in the 70s, but I remember the year before people were saying it was like, oh, it was, snowing and, flurrying the first day of practice. So
something special about that, and it's something really special about the Johnson brothers. This time, CJ gets a big chunk gain all the way to the 41-yard line. For each of the games here in Gatlinburg, they choose an offensive, defensive, and overall MVP. I have a feeling that C.J. Johnson is going to be at least one of those three.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, C.J. Johnson, Zeke, and Fanning are all three in the running for MVP. Me personally, I think it's Johnson for MVP, Zeke for offensive player, and then what's that boy's name from Cabarrus? That's DN. Trying to think. Hudson Patrick. I think he'll get DP.
And we got a flag in the backfield. There's a lot of fans upset about something. Looks like one of the players had his helmet off and encouraging him, probably a late hit penalty. And it's an unsportsmanlike conduct called against Gold. Which it makes sense to be frustrated, especially with how stagnant Gold has been through this point, but just an unnecessary penalty. Under 9 minutes left to go in regulation. From the 30-yard line after the penalty, a great option to the right side for the Navy quarterback. Great for Randall Fanning to go up and inside the red zone.
And Spence, you said, there was a concern about, Fanning's the only quarterback on Navy, and he's potentially injured, and he's limping a little bit. What limp?
Not doesn't look like
what
anymore.
Limp?
Looked like he was shaken up for a little bit. May have just been some sort of cramp, but he's been putting in the work. So, especially in this All-American game, and Coach was again telling us that they only had the one quarterback, so that was a little bit of concern with trying to get people rotated. But he's fit the part very well as the carry to the right side. Another one of the Johnson brothers going to the end zone. Touchdown. I beg your pardon. That's Jalen Venter from the Freedom Cowboys, and Sikh champion gets the touchdown, and a flag looked like it was called. It was called a sideline warning throw on the Gold, and another 6 points for the Navy. The Navy just getting another 6 points on the board, and right now, 25-7, trying to make it 26, putting their trust again in Zachariah Duke. As he knocks it perfectly through. Only has missed 1 point after on the season. Had a missed field goal earlier from distance. And 26 or 27 to 7 is what the score will be with 8:02 left to go in regulation. This will be booted back into the end zone for a touchback. And we get back here in this Rising Stars game. I actually beg your pardon this entire time. So used to, the Rising Stars in previous years has been an 8-man game, but just noticing it now, it's 11 players on both sides of the ball. And likely they did that decision. It's a mixture of players that are from the 8-man scene, from the 11-man scene, and likely they did that so they could give more rising stars more opportunity in that regard. So my apologies for not noticing that. I'm so used to the rising stars the last couple of years being 8-man as well. And up to it's the 11-man game. The difference is it's 12-minute quarters here. And what a sack in the backfield. Drew Shepard, the sophomore from Chambers Academy, with the quick sack.
Yeah, and he didn't even have a chance right there. Just quarterback just, got the lineman got swim moved at the line, and just Shepard just came in and just sacked him. But Spence, that begs the question. So I wasn't here for the Rising Star game last year. I don't know if you were.
I was not.
Oh, you
not
weren't?
here
Okay.
last year.
Okay, then I probably shouldn't ask that question. I was wondering if there were more players this year than last year, but I guess that may be a James question.
That would be a James question, and he's running around, doing a bunch of stuff as usual. Quick toss to the left side for the Gold is a nice gain to about the 25-yard line. That was a good catch and run. Looked like it was Zeke Clanton again who got to the left side. And it brings it up to about the 25-yard line. Like I was mentioning, they likely did it because of giving more players more opportunity, because there's so many of a mixture between 8-man and 11-man on those rosters, and maybe not enough to field separate Rising Stars games for the 8 and 11 scene. As pressure again here, quick toss left side, incomplete, and looked like it was a pass intended again for Clanton, and it'll result in a 4th and 5. And the Gold will have to punt it away again, which has unfortunately been the story of the game. 6:32 left in regulation. And the officials are having a discussion here. They're discussing something about here with spotting the ball. And they were maybe talking about if there was a penalty on there, having some sort of talk, but opted to not do anything there. And punt time for the Gold again, with a 19-point lead. As Gold will not punt it, they'll go for it, which makes sense with how much time is left, and slung to the left side, incomplete, and that'll be a turnover.
There is
downs.
laundry on the field
in the backfield.
The
It's a holding call on the offense, so it's not going to matter. It's a decline penalty, and the Navy will turn it over on downs with a great field position, possibly to give a touchdown to one of their other All-Stars that haven't gotten as many reps in. So 1st and 10 from the 25. And, of course, the time of game where, of course, with the All-Stars, they all get playing time here with all of them being nominated and selected. All of them get in at some capacity or another. Several coaches have usually done the system where for the first half they have a certain level of starters. In the second half they have their other players start through it and then rotate guys continuously. And with 6:26 left to go, lob it in the backfield, and this carry here by Venter as Jalen Venter. There's a flag down. And this will go down. There's a flag. Looked like from the back judge, and it's a holding call on Navy. So even with that great run from Venter, it's going to move him back.
Yeah, nonetheless, great run by Venter. And I don't know what it is about what they're cooking in Huntsville, but every freedom running back just knows how to read the field. They know where to run. They know which hole to hit. It's incredible. They've put a lot of good running backs out over the past few years.
And it also helps when Freedom's offense has always, as for the most part, been barely any passing.
Right.
They are a very rush-heavy team and and it's in part because of the great running backs they have. Speaking of great running backs, here's a carry up the middle by Jurkis Mackey, who pushes up to the red zone at about the 19-yard line. Mackey has also showed up throughout the game. So now we're winding down on the final moments of the game, Blake, and preliminarily, again, it's offensive, defensive, and overall most valuable players for the All-American games. Which ones stand out most in your mind?
This one's hard, but MVP, I gotta give it to Zeke. Zeke has been, the lifeline of that white team. I'd say Johnson, the running back. He'd be offensive player, and then I believe it's what's his name? Hudson Patrick would be my defensive pick. So we'll see. We'll see how I hit those on the head, but I would like to see them give it to somebody other than a quarterback. Fanning has played really good, but I would like to see, someone other than he deserves some kind of award, but come on now. I feel like a quarterback wins every award forever. I mean, look at like the past Heisman Trophy winners, it's all quarterbacks. Very rarely is it, a running back or receiver, very rarely a defensive player, but
was the last non-quarterback to win the Heisman, was it Devontae Smith? Yeah, last
I
one
think so.
Been quarterback since then. And a 1st and 10, pitch in the backfield to one of the Johnson brothers, pushing through, diving for the pylon, and another touchdown for C.J. Johnson.
Oh, they called
is
him
wiped
out.
off the board as he touches out of bounds at the 3-yard line.
Oh, man. Yeah, he probably just had a foot step out of bounds. Side judge was there to see it. I saw towards the end of that play, he, tried to dive for it through the air. Good effort, but nonetheless fell just short. Spence, I hope he wasn't on your fantasy team.
Not on mine, at least. I mean, he already has gotten enough points today. If he were on anybody's fantasy team, he would already gotten him. I don't know the math on it, like 12, 15, something like that. And attempted rush up the middle is immediately stopped. And that was a good tackle in the backfield by Jackson Todd, the sophomore from Macon East Academy.
Will there be a running clock if Navy scores?
As far as I'm aware, no. They don't do a running clock unless both coaches were to agree to it. They don't do a running clock in the All-Star games. As far as I'm aware, I know Tennessee high school rules is that it's 35 or more is a running clock, which it's a 19-point lead, so it's far from that at this point. I think there was a situation that warranted that a few years ago in the All-American game where it was 44-0, but they still didn't run the clock as rush up the middle, looking for the goal line, not going to get there. Saw that Jalen Venter was trying to push through again and get his second touchdown of the day. Brings up a 3rd and goal on the 2.
Yeah, and this Navy team and just this game in general has really put the running backs on full display. I mean, Venter, Zeke, Johnson, or both Johnsons actually, running backs have been on full display, showing the running backs some love.
From the 2-yard line, handoff, deceptive up the middle, a touchdown for the Navy. This score by Greg Lehan, the sophomore from Harvest Christian. He had 9 rushing touchdowns on the regular season and gets another one here in Gatlinburg.
Now, that was just a good run right there by the Harvest Christian product. Good physical run up the middle and, just cashed in for the touchdown. So,
and 32-7 the score with 2:38 left to go in regulation. The Navy looked to make it a 33-7 lead with another point after. Zachariah Duke has been productive throughout the day and adds another PAT to his total. It's too bad they don't have a special teams MVP on this because Zachariah Duke has been consistent. I mean, he missed the field goal earlier, but been fairly consistent on that.
I told you he bounced back.
Hasn't had a chance to make up for that missed field goal, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was hitting. He was hitting from. I think he hit like a 35 or 40-yard field goal the other day. I don't remember the exact number, but last night when we were, yeah, I think it's 30. Yeah, 36-yard field goal. That's when he hit it.
Yeah, last night they had a special kickers and punchers training here at the main field with the lights on. And we were seeing a lot of guys just drain field goals from distance. They moved out 10 yards every time. I think it was back towards the 45. A lot of these guys were draining stuff. And reminded me of Antonio Zita when he was with Riverside Christian and was showing in practices without any pressure, of course, draining field goals from 60 and 70. Went on to be the kicker for Tennessee State University. And not sure where Antonio Zita is nowadays. I wonder if he continued on to the NFL or got on any practice squads or anything. From the 40-yard line, Navy will boot it deep, and 2.5 minutes left for the goal to work with as we get to the witching hour, in a sense, for the Rising Stars competition. From the 20-yard line, the Gold will try to salvage or at least get one good drive going here, and they'll air it out to the left side. Couldn't make the catch. Bounced off of the shoulder pad. I believe that was off of, trying to look for the number here. That was Kyrie Wilson trying to make the catch and couldn't pull it in.
Yeah, and that's just been the theme of today for the Gold team. Just, beautiful ball. Everything was perfect, and then drop. It's been hard to catch out here. I will say it's cold, but it's heated up a little bit. I was hoping, the receiving room for Gold would, get their hands a little warm by halftime, but, still ice cold.
At least stops the clock. Only took 8 seconds off on a 2nd and 10 and a scramble. And opting to go up the middle, Brooks Bryan will get to about the 30-yard line, and a flag is thrown. Looked like it was an unnecessary tackle that they might call on Eli Wharton, sophomore from Chambers Academy.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate right there because you can tell Chambers, he wasn't wanting to fully do that,
Right.
but he slid just in time to where, it's just unfortunate.
Solely a player safety thing, too, and you have to make that call in real time. And that's where you have those. Yep, they call it targeting. And he's ejected from the game. It didn't necessarily. They just ejected him from the All-American game.
And that's not. Come on now. I don't think that's targeting.
Yeah, and you hear the fans are not happy with it. It's saying from an All-Star game, and that is unfortunate. And looks like a timeout will be called by the Navy. And I think that's our first ever ejection from any of the All-American games.
That's got to be the most underwhelming ejection I've ever seen. Because it looked like, okay, a little bit of unnecessary contact. He didn't mean to. The guy just slid into him. It was unfortunate. And then, it's just like targeting, and then the ref's like, he's out. No fight, nothing. It's unfortunate all around. But, rules are the rules.
Yeah, you have to certainly make the rule on that. In college football, they review if it's an actual, targeting call or not, and they make those kind of determinations. And certainly it's one of those where you have to make the call on the field in real time. But that's a tough call for the young man who got ejected in his final game of his or not final game with this being Rising Stars, but final game of the season at least, as Bryan just gets sacked in the backfield, which, again, the story of the game for the Navy defense.
Yeah, again, offensive line, just kind of letting the quarterback down right there. Thought he had a chance, but no, it's, again, drop balls and, untimely sacks have been, big killers for this game.
As this is a catch and run to the right side. That's Zeke Clanton, who, again, has been a big point of this offense. And, we talked about all of the coaching staff for the Navy being from Oakland City University. Todd Miller, he was talking to us before the game, and they were excited to be a part of this, and, of course, a good recruiting mechanism for them in that regard. And this is the first time that it's been a college that has coached in any capacity. Any coaches that are on a college coaching staff are a part of the All-American games, which shows for a good direction going forward, as they'll flag here likely for a false start, some sort of stoppage. And it's a false start in the offense. But it's a great opportunity for these kids, and hopefully there's more of that immersed in the future. Maybe spread out more amongst other teams, because this is the only one that has college coaches. But it's a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great opportunity. And, Spence, one thing I just noticed, of course, this is a rising star. This is mainly, underclassmen. One thing I noticed is there's a lot of players out there from Chambers Academy in Alabama. I'm looking at, with forgot his name, who just got ejected. I believe that's remind me real quick.
It was Eli Wharton from Chambers Academy.
Yeah,
36.
Yeah, Wharton. He just got ejected. If he was still out there, there'd be, I think 4 players from Chambers. So definitely they have something interesting brewing over there in Chambers.
Airing out for the pass. Second interception. This time it's picked off by Blaze Eyrig from the Oklahoma City Patriots. And that'll just about do it with 14 seconds left in the game. 2 interceptions on the day for this Navy secondary.
Yeah, and good defensive output from Navy. Very dominant game from them. Looked a little close going into the half, but, they came back. Very interesting game plan they had on defense. They torched them off the offensive line. The D-line just cooked them, absolutely cooked them. Secondary was locked down. Can't think. Randall Fanning, was on his A game today. Johnson were all cooking. And, even Jalen Venter all had big games through the air and the ground. Really impressive output for the Navy.
See, Andrew Capps is on the field for the coordinator, director of business development here at Rocky Top Sports World, and essentially the main guy running the show for all of the All-American games held on this weekend. He's about to give out the awards as a victory formation. The Navy win 33-7 in the first of 4 All-American games happening this afternoon, and they completely soak the coach. I hope that Coach Miller gets to a blanket immediately so he doesn't potentially get hypothermia in this cold. And 33-7, Navy victorious over the Gold. And we'll keep it on here. They will honor all of the most valuable players. And we'll keep it on here for just a moment. But close game to start out around the second half is around 7-6. The Gold had the lead at first and were showing good defense, but then it was all Navy throughout the rest of the game.
Right, yeah, and, that just shows you, good coaches right there. I mean, they all, all college coaches, they know what they're doing. They see, halftime, and they're down. They don't see that as, hey, we need to panic and freak out. They see this as, listen, we got some adjustments to make. We still come back in this game. We just got to change a few things, and change a few things they did. Opened up the pass. I mean, Fanning, he wasn't necessarily struggling in the first half, but he really, really opened it up towards the second. Got Venter more involved. C.J. Johnson was more, and Greg Johnson were both, heavily involved more, and, just great showing overall by Navy.
As you see, one of the time-honored traditions in high school football, you don't see it at the collegiate or professional level. The post-game huddle between all these teams and players, the coaches speak essentially their wisdom and or blessings over the young men on the field. And of course, the good news is for these players, they've got several years left, or in the case of the juniors, one more next season. but for the sophomores, they got 2 years left that they could continue to participate in Gatlinburg and on their regular seasons throughout the rest of their high school careers as they kind of wrap it up here. And just a reminder, we've got at 1 o'clock 2 games going on simultaneously. You can try to do split screen on both of these on YouTube. We've got the 11-man All-American game and the 8-man juniors game. That'll be happening with on both fields here from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We'll have all of the action for you between those 2 competitions. And game 1 of 4 done for this afternoon from Gatlinburg. Again, we're going to stick around until they're done just to get you the announcement of the most valuable players, offensive, defensive, and overall. We'll get those taken care of for you. And of course, it's been already a good day, a good weekend overall for the players. You know, the other great thing, Blake, is we've been around for practices, and we've been around, you know, talking with other players and coaches that are around here, and it's one of those environments as well, very laxed, very laid back, and the real benefit of it as well is you know, with the rising stars to some extent, but the seniors especially that we're going to see later, they get at least one more game on their high school career.
Right, yeah, and that last game is always very emotional. You know, you think, you know, oh, maybe, you know, I mean, there are some players who know, yeah, I'm going to Gatlinburg, and then there are some that, you know, they're like, oh, shoot, you know, I didn't think I had a chance, or, you know, they thought they had a chance, but, you know, less favorable. It's just one more game. Some of them, it's their last ever football game to think about. And then some of them, you know, obviously going on to play college ball. It's just an emotional thing, and I'm really glad, you know, Rocky Top and Gatlinburg has provided the chance for some of these outgoing seniors to just play one more game.
They give their applause here. Sometimes these take a little longer than others, as we're just trying to make sure we honor the most valuable players for each of the teams before we sign off from this game. And you can see, you know, Andrew Capps on the side there waiting to honor those awards, and they'll announce it on the PA system here as well. I believe they have some plaques and/or trophies for the MVPs. As I believe Andrew Capps just mentioned to him, he was getting them to quickly wrap it up. So they'll say their post-game prayer. Again, a lot of these athletes from private Christian schools or Christian associated programs in their last post-game prayer as they all put a final bow on their successful 2023 football campaigns. And we'll get the honorees.
First off, we have the defensive MVP, number 41, Drew Shepard.
Yeah, Drew Shepard, defensive MVP, and not a surprise there.
Not a surprise at all.
Next, we have the offensive MVP, number 34, C.J. Johnson.
C.J. Johnson. It was going to be him or his brother who would get that offensive MVP. I know you said the quarterbacks always get the awards and everything, but Fanning being the only quarterback for the Navy, it makes sense with how much work he was putting in.
Well deserved.
That'll wrap it up for the Rising Stars game for the 2023 Gatlinburg All-American Bowls. Just a reminder, again, we've got the 11-man All-American game as well as the Juniors All-American 8-man football game coming up here. Both will be simultaneously live here on 8-Man Extreme at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. For Blake Biggs, our producers, Alex Chasen and Jack Helwig, our entire crew, all the hardworking men and women that make this run so smoothly. I'm Spencer Topset saying so long from the mountaintop. The Navy successfully defeat the gold in the Rising Stars All-American game.